Alright, it's Brett from Iron Body Martial Arts here. In case you don't know, I'm on a channel here on YouTube that focuses mainly on old style traditional martial arts conditioning training, endurance and toughness training, and law enforcement stuff, and like some practical self-defense sort of mentalities, because law enforcement is my background, 14 years. So I'm going to try my best not to get too angry about this one. Because Armchair Violence, this is a video response to Armchair Violence. I filmed one before, but I thought I would do just a live one, which you can't, you can't sort of cut away on cameras. You can't, change what you're going to say. So I thought I'd do a video response on Armchair Violence's video where he says Shin conditioning, but he also says, all this stuff about bone conditioning and stuff like this is bro science. And like, I'm trying to hide my fury at this one. I try and keep positive on YouTube, and I try and keep, I don't sort of reach out and diss anyone else or whatever. But I must admit, I've had a small run-in with Armchair Violence before, and his content or the way he puts things forward infuriates me. It really does. But I don't have anything against the guy except everything that he's currently putting out. I haven't seen any of his stuff in ages because when his channel was new, I sort of tuned in to see what the next wave of YouTube martial arts people were saying, and then I was kind of disappointed by what I saw, or at least not interested, not in my direction. And I just, I had one, I've done a video before about the palm, because he did a video on like palm strikes are useless and stuff like this. And I approached him saying like, look, mate, I'm 14 years like law enforcement and stuff, and I train Kung Fu, I actually train these things. Like I've actually used them in real life and they've been effective and blah, blah, blah. And other things, military packages and this and that, use them. His reply basically was like really arrogant and ignorant reply. He sent me on messages, where he basically said, because I said even special forces have these like palm striking applications, and he was like, I've fought some special forces people, and they're not that good at martial arts, and military and law enforcement, their martial arts are shit, and blah blah blah. Paraphrasing, but this is what he said in the comments. So then when he said that, I was like, right, that's it. And I just did like a 2-hour rant video on his last thing about palm strikes. So today, I want to try, and I'm not going to be calm, but I want to try and be calmer, because it's 11 months old, but I've seen his video, because the algorithm on YouTube's so bad these days that Shin conditioning is bro science, and he goes on to say that bone conditioning and whatnot is like bro science. It's all bro science. And then the funniest thing ever is that he then proceeds to give us a bro science lecture on how it's bro science, which I like, when I was sitting there, I couldn't believe it. Because at the end of the video, he says, I'm not a subject matter expert, and this is what I've been able to find out about. Like, the problem is these days, everyone's an expert on Google and YouTube and whatever. So basically, he's gone out and Googled and YouTube whatever, and fair enough, done some study on his own, and presented his argument that it doesn't work. Okay, fair enough. But he doesn't know enough to know that it doesn't work. He's just presented an argument with, well, probably biased information saying it doesn't work. So that in itself, if someone who's not knowledgeable in the subject presents you an argument using science, is that not bro science in itself? So this I couldn't believe. I was like, hold on a minute. This kid's just saying that this stuff's bro science, when there's actually a lot of evidence of it working in combat sport, Muay Thai, loads of fighters advocating it. But this kid's come along and he's saying that's all bro science, but this science that I'm telling you isn't bro science, because he includes in that video of his stuff about Wolff's Law, but then in his video he's using Wolff's Law and using other stuff, but going, no, that was bro science. So this I couldn't believe. I was like, this kid's actually trying to say, give us bro science, telling us that Shin conditioning and bone conditioning training is bro science, and this is why. And he gives you all this science, but then at the end of the video he says, oh, but this is what I just have been able to sort of research and find out. And yeah, I was just like, God, things are in a dire state if this is what we're going to have to deal with. And the problem is this kid actually believes this shit that he's saying. I mean, it's well researched and good. And the science of what he's saying is yeah, it's credible science that he's presented in a sort of biased way and then gone, oh, I don't really understand it at the end of the video. And I filmed the not live, more concise version of this, which is still unedited and I can put it out. But basically, I'm annoyed again in this, like, I'm not annoyed because conditioning is what I do and this is that, and I've got 12 or 13 years of it in my channel. I'm annoyed that the can't do, won't do, never tried, or just can't do it brigade come along, and again, they don't have any idea of it, and they're trying to poo-poo it, and they're trying to say negative stuff, and they're trying to mislead you for no reason. And I don't understand why. I don't understand why a group of people would want another group of people to not do something that may benefit them. Like, I could be a sprinter and I could think sprinting will be really great for you, and I show you sprinting, but sprinting's not for you. You're like, nah, sprinting's not for me. I like long distance running. So then you go away and you make a whole thing about, oh, sprinting's gonna kill you. Sprinting like makes your heart rate too fast. It like stresses your muscles too much. It causes like lifts in blood pressure and this and that. But long distance running is the way to go. Long distance running. So that's what I'm trying to say, guys. Like this, unfortunately, these channels are just clickbait. These channels are just clickbaiting you and trying to make views and think up of titles where they can get views and get money. They're actually the problem that they purport to trying to be fighting on YouTube. Yeah, even I don't even think they realize it, but they are the problem that they say they're trying to fight. Because this is another thing I said in my other reply, is that between judoka traditionally, like back in the day, I remember my judo instructor, and strikers and stuff like that, and kung fu or martial arts, this sort of argument has always existed. So it's not something new that this kid's come up with. He thinks it's the best new idea and he has to tell us about. If you've been in martial arts more than like a couple of years or 10, 15, 20 years or whatever, this is an argument that we all know about. The judoka, my judoka instructor, judo, he was like, no, none of that striking, you'll get arthritis, you'll damage your bones. And it's the same old argument. And then the Muay Thai guys and, the boxers and the other side of things would be saying the opposite, And, now the world's got a bit more educated, but now it seems we're getting this new wave of, I call them anti-martial artists, because they're people who are they're trying to tell you what's fake and what's real. They're trying to give you, with no experience of their own. And they're trying to tell you all this, what's fake, what's real, what you should do and what you shouldn't do, with very little experience and a lot of ignorance. And yeah, it's just damaging. And they don't realize that they're becoming the people that they're trying to fight against. They're trying to fight. They're telling you that they're trying to keep you safe and keep you from fake martial arts and keep you this and keep you that. But then they create their own bubble of ignorance. Like this ArmchairViolence guy who's saying that Shin conditioning, but he's also saying all kinds of bone training don't work. They don't dense in your bones, and he's kind of skirting in between the thing. And this kid even goes so far as to say, and I'm sure it must be trolling or must just be for views, he even goes so far to say that he says, I bet you my shin, as in his shin, is as strong as Stephen Wonderboy Thompson's shins, because that's one of the videos he cites on his channel, because Stephen Wonderboy is one of the newer known people who actually is in MMA and like what's the word, supports sort of traditional style bone conditioning because his father did it, and he says, and he advocates how much it's benefited him, and he reckons that it's like stopped him getting like, damage to his legs. It stopped him getting fractures in his hands when like a lot of the other guys would come away with fractures and this and that and the next thing. So that's why. So this lad's actually said, oh well, my shin's probably stronger than his shin, and I just, oh, it just makes me mad because, like I can't believe, yeah, I just can't believe what this kid's saying. And like I said in my more concise but long pre-recorded reply that I've got on my thing, I haven't posted yet. The problem is not what this kid's saying. Yeah. The problem is the comment section and all the freaking people that are drinking it in. And they're saying, and whether they're young, naive, gullible, inexperienced, which they probably are if they're watching his channel, they're just like, oh man, this is the best explanation I've ever heard. No one's ever explained it like this. And, and he's telling people you can't increase your bone density after the years of 30. Where do you get that from? So where does that put people like Masatatsu Oyama, all the current Okinawan like masters of karate and kyokushin? You've got these guys, and the evidence is even there on YouTube, like whether you like it or not, whether you're into it or not, you've got like 70, 80-year-olds or whatever punching through like 6 solid boards of pine like this with a fist strike, big fat hands. And we're not even talking the Chinese guys with their fat hands. We're just talking the more attainable Japanese version of these older karateka. So those guys have apparently got, like, where's their bone density come from? I tell you what, from someone who's done like more, probably about 19 years of conditioning, more than 15 years of this stuff, I'm telling you, it's come from that training. Yeah. And I've been thinking it, like, that's why I wanted to do this video. And I'll have a look at some of the comments. I see some people have commented already. I've been thinking, like, how can I portray this story without just being annoyed and like coming across as angry or whatever? Like I said, I did a pre-recorded reply, but it goes for half an hour. But it's I haven't posted it yet, but I'm like, well, I could tell my story, and I've got like 14 years of evidence on YouTube of me practicing these things. And I was like, yeah, but no, that doesn't prove anything, And I was like, oh yeah, good point. It doesn't, because it's not a 2-minute video of bro science. But what it is, one thing it is, but this is why it's a waste of time as well with Armchair Violence, because I approached him about the palm conditioning stuff and his ludicrous comments about how he like fought people from special forces and they weren't that good at martial arts and they were crap. And that's another thing I thought about this guy. I was like, who is this guy? Like, it's just some kid. And I told him, I said, mate, I said, I've got like, not that I'm trying to big myself up, but I said, I've got 14 years law enforcement experience actually using this stuff out in the road, not all the time. I've done the conditioning stuff and whatnot, and I'm telling you, the palm stuff that you're talking about, you're wrong. It works, it's viable. Some of the demonstrations of palm strikes that he was doing just showed me that he just did not know the subject matter whatsoever. And then I was like, what is this lad's like expertise? Why does he think he's suddenly an expert on martial arts? Anyone has a right to say whatever. And then I saw more recent. I said, I bet you, and this is with all due respect because I love BJJ and I've trained it. I said, I bet you he's a gi bandit. And I've been called a gi bandit, so I use the gi bandit. But I was like, I bet you he's a gi bandit. I bet you someone who just trains BJJ and does no striking, does no nothing. Now I don't know if that's the case, but at least that's his background. And then I saw a more recent video with him, even though he irritates the hell out of me, where he was like rolling with this guy and telling him, the guy came to his BJJ dojo, he's rolling with him, and he was telling him, he was like, I'll choke him out like this, I do that. And I even thought, like, man, even the way this guy's talking to this guy is so like, he thinks he's like so high above this guy because he does a bit of jujitsu and stuff. and then I coined it. I realized, I was like, this kid is a gi bandit. And again, I say that with biggest respect because I train BJJ. I've used it in actually real life on the street against like against people who are attacking me, law enforcement scenario, which I've spoken about before. But I'm like, this kid is just he's another one of the problem that he's trying to fight against. This lad stands there and makes video after video about everything that doesn't work. Krav Maga, this and that, next thing, to get views, to get money on YouTube and mislead people. And he's like part of the problem that he's trying to fight against, or he reports to be trying to fight against, because he's ignorant. He's not experienced to be telling you anything of what does or doesn't work. And then when someone comes to him with more experience and says, no, mate, sorry, like your understanding of military combat and what actual combat is, you're like thinking of sports and not actual combat. Like there's two different worlds, and this kid just can't see it. So that infuriates the hell out of me. And I haven't even gone into his bone conditioning thing. And to be fair on him, though, the science of what he put there was fine. It was all current biological science. But apparently Wolf's Law on the National Geographic is bro science, and on Stephen One Boy Thompson. But then when he's got Wolf Law in his one, he knows all about it, even though he's not a subject matter expert, and it's not bro science there. Well, bro, if they're talking bro science, you're talking bro science, because again, I don't see no science degrees on your wall, and you've already admitted that. So I wanted to come forward myself as a subject matter expert, because at the end of his video, he calls for subject matter experts to come forward. And he was probably thinking about like bone scientists or something. But I'm coming forward as a subject matter expert as much as I can in the West of iron, bone, and conditioning methods to toughen the body and toughen the. I'm coming forward, and I'm calling Armchair Violence out, and I'm saying he's talking big fat BS. And I tell you what, if you don't listen to me, don't listen to me. Don't listen to Armchair Violence. But I tell you what, there's a whole host of like there's like the whole country of Thailand, yeah, where freaking Muay Thai is their freaking national sport, and they condition and train their shins from the get-go. And if you're going to try and tell me that doesn't densen their shins, it doesn't toughen them, it doesn't make them harder than like a normal person's shins or his shins, it's just crap. You talk to Burkow, you talk to old Sam Chai, or however you pronounce his name, you talk to Dave LeDuc, you talk to Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. There's this, at that level of combat sport, bone conditioning plays a part. It does, it plays a part. And you've got advocates of it, and you've got people who, less traditionally trained. But at least you go on Stephen Wonderboy Thompson's video, listen to him, you could probably, because he's got the proof. I can sit here and talk to you and show you my channel, but, people these days want the proof from like the combat sport. Well, he's the proof from the combat sport, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. He says himself, there's times where my fist should have broke, it didn't break. There's times where my shin should have bust, it didn't bust. It was felt strong, blah, blah, blah. He gives all the examples, he gives the training, his father's trained in it. It may not be for everyone. And that's a problem that annoys me with these guys. And someone did just comment that Armchair Violence is like a miniature Icy Mike, is that they're the classics, they don't know. So they for something inside them, and it's either them or it's just YouTube money making and pulling the strings of YouTube to get the views and whatnot. But there's something wrong, because unfortunately, guys, you guys are the problem you're trying to fight against. You might as well be coming on. You might as well be like in a karate gi, coming on to your channel and going, "This is the only way to punch," and just go like this. This is the only way to punch, because you guys are the new that guy. You literally are. And you can give your own versions of bro science. But I tell you what, no one's listening to this video at this time. But I tell you what, I'm 36 now. When I was 15, in that age, I started my training properly. I'd been into martial arts since I was a little kid. I started my training properly. I was doing, as middle teenagers do, I was doing my gym. I was doing other sports. I was building myself up. I'd already had a history of karate and stuff like this. I was training. I was building myself up. And I've done the weight training because he's saying mainly weight training conditions you, and it does. And the bones, and he's right. And these methods are inside Kung Fu as well. That's the Qigong, the bone and tendon metamorphosis that everyone poo-poos, and the dynamic tension. He said it. The way your muscles are attached to your bones, the tension that you create there from movements and stuff like this, that densens your bones. And it does. It actually also pulls on the bone marrow inside your bone as well. There's the other stuff like that if you want to go really into the Chinesey side of things. But it does, it's proven. That stuff densens your bones. But it only does it to a point. Then finally, where your striking surface hits the target, it has to be conditioned. If we're talking, say, bare knuckle conditioning sports, or where your bare shin's going to hit something, that last striking surface needs to be conditioned. Yeah, so usually it's like you hit the more softer, more absorbative surfaces to get the force sort of going into the bones and shaking the whole bone, or compressing, or whatever torsion you want to say. And then you hit the more harder stuff eventually with less give to try and get that last surface. Yeah, the last actual surface of the bone. And we can go on about everything, and I can try and convince you about it, but like, all I can say is, guys, like, it's hard to, because I'm not going to hit you with a whole thing of bro science. I'm just going to talk to you about my experience, because I know what it's like to not have that conditioning. For me, I was doing weights, I was doing those things. I know what it feels like when I was punching, when I was practicing my karate punches. Then that's when I was 15. Add a couple of years of conditioning onto that, and I know what it feels like to have the conditioning. Now I'm 15. Now I'm 30 something. But even in my early 20s, like if you go back on this channel, with that conditioning, I was doing stuff, hitting the bed, hitting the dummy, hitting the stones, hitting the sandbags. I could bend the iron bar with my hand. What, and I'm not saying also, like, so we got to be careful. So he's saying the bone conditioning doesn't work and Shin conditioning is bro science. But in the sort of martial arts world who do this kind of training, the proper ones, if you're not just making it simple for MMA people, which is fine, I like MMA, but the general ethos is that it's not just your bones. There's certain exercises to train your bones, but just as a quick side, the general ethos is that you kind of seeing your body as one whole. So it may be a nuance as to whether you're training your bone and your muscle, or your muscle and your bone and your fascia and everything. But besides to say, or whatever the saying is, the conditioning of the hand, the body, the unit as an area, or whatever you want to call it, the shin, because you've got the muscle of your shin. Usually when you condition your shin, you condition the whole leg, the muscle and the bone. Yeah, so because the muscle can take a lot of more hit than the bone can sometimes, if you get it used to the hitting. So yeah, there's different striking surfaces. Another thing is, I'll finish that topic. So that's another little nuance is that, yeah, you can talk about the bones, but I'm talking about the shin conditioning, the bone conditioning, or conditioning in general. So this might show a lack of understanding again from there may be a little lack of understanding from Armchair Violence, who doesn't do these things, is that you're not necessarily just training your bones. Yeah, you are, because as you can see, like with my hand, it's well, if you knew me years ago, my hand is a lot different to how it used to be, and my knuckles are different. They align differently. They've densened. My forearms are different. The bones in the forearms are hard. I can bust stuff with them. I've used them to hit people with. They're like a shin bone now, whereas before they were just weak. If you get if you get a normal person like this, that's usually a pressure point. You can squeeze this bone with your hand like this, and you can actually hurt most people easily. So what I'm not to say is it's not just localized to, but I'm not making this video to go into the freaking bro science. But it's again, it's a misunderstanding if you think it's just confined to the bone, because it's the muscles and the bones and this and this and this. But that's a nuance. It doesn't matter. But to say these things are bro science and they don't work, when actually the general consensus is that they do, even in science, when they go on about Wolff's law and this and that and the next thing, it's kind of stupid. And unfortunately, it's not to help you guys. It's not to help you guys. It's just an ignorance. It's the same ignorance as if someone comes and tells you, oh, striking's crap, or oh, grappling's just crap. It doesn't work in real life. Those are all ignorances. No one or two of those statements are right. So when someone comes out and gives you a waste of time blanket statement like that, but he won't. This guy won't listen. Like, he will not concede. Like, I sit here now, having done these things for yeah. So I'm an experiment in more than 15 years, probably 19 or more years of these kinds of conditionings. And this lad who's, I don't know what, who's probably only 20 something. So I've nearly been doing these conditionings for as long as this guy's been alive, but he probably won't concede. Like, he will not watch this video and go, oh, well, actually, there's someone who has been doing bone conditioning. And oh, as it happens, I can't even say he's one of these unrealistic martial artists, because he's a policeman and he's actually got 14 years of like experience. And even if he was the shittest policeman in the world, he's probably gotten in a few confrontations and a couple of fights in those years, or at least had to like deal with resisting people, as a very, because so, even if you boiled it down to what they call what do you call it, pressure testing. So even if you boil it down to pressure testing, because that's what a lot of people say, when they really want to try their last effort to get rid of like what your experience might be, to tell them that they might be wrong. Their last hold is that they go, oh yeah, well, the police, they just, loads of you just jump on someone and you wrestle them, and oh well, isn't that pressure testing? Isn't that, at the very least, isn't that the same as pressure testing with someone who then probably wants to actually cave your head in? But that never washes with them. So anyway, I don't know what you guys think. Should I post my pre-recorded video? But the problem is it goes on for half an hour. It's a bit more, it flows a bit more than this one. It's a bit more concise, not edited. It's just me ranting again. But I thought I'd do this because I was going to try and be kinder to Armchair Violence, because I don't like putting other people down, and I don't like negative comments on YouTube. I never participate in them. I hate those channels, as you guys probably know, that talk against other martial artists, and McDojo Life and Icy Mike, and I like Icy Mike, but I just hate the content that they create. McDojo Life is literally one of my most hated channels on YouTube, and just everyone loves it. It's got so many views. But I in my last video, in my pre-recorded one, I said, to me, McDojo Life's kind of like the death penalty. It's great until you get it wrong once, yeah. And I've seen McDojo Life get it wrong and attack. And the problem is, you know what? They get it wrong and they attack stuff they don't understand. They never take it back. They mislead other people. They don't understand the culture as well. So it's again coming across, I'm sorry to say, as like American ignorance. It fuels the furnace of anti-American sentiment out there. They don't help themselves because they don't own a lot of these cultures, that they don't own a lot of the traditional arts of these cultures that they don't understand, and they try and mock. Do you know what I mean? They try and put them down, but they're purporting to be martial artists. It's like cutting the nose off your own face. They're going to tell you everything that's fake and this and that, and that's not real. I need to be spoon-fed to know what's real. Man, we all know what's fake and what's real. We can see. Yeah, we can see. We've got eyes. We've been doing martial arts. We don't need some piddly stick-thin guy with a load of titles, but you don't actually see him doing anything, telling us what's fake and what's real. That's bullshit. Anyway, let's go to some comments here. Some good comments here. MMAs says, I guess skin doesn't get thicker with training either. I guess my doctor told me, how is your back skin so thick? I said, I'm about 20 years of training break falls. He said, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, and that MMA gaze, that goes back to what I was saying before about a little bit of a misunderstanding. Like these guys don't understand the topic at all. So they don't even think that it's not necessarily just your bones as well. You know, you've got the muscles that support the bone, you've got the bone itself, you've got like the fascia. You know, it's more complicated than, oh, I'm just training my bone. Having said that, there is specific eye and bone training where you are just trying to hit the bone surface. There's then stuff like cotton palm where you're trying to, like, you know, get force a bit more into the inners of the bone and this and that. And this lad trying to tell you how all these torsion forces they work in this way, but they don't actually work in this way. The bone is a 3D structure, and it's stronger in compression and torsion than concrete. It's stronger in both of those ways. It's got strength in all directions. It's a 3D substance. It's not a straight piece of thing on a piece of paper like this kid's trying to tell you, who then goes on to say he's not a subject matter expert. Anyway, Sean Simon says, hey all. Yeah, hey Sean. Sean Simon says, Armchair Violence is just a mini icy mic. And there's the MMA, and they think MMA and UFC is the be all and end all of everything, and they have no idea of what real fights are. Well, at least Icy Mike went and did street beefs. But again, I said it in my pre. Oh, Sean says, thank you for calling these people out. At least I said it in my pre-recorded one that I did. Like, yeah, because Icy Mike did his. I called him out, but they don't listen. You know, I called him out because he did his video on bare knuckle. That Icy Mike, who's meant to be in combat sports, came out and he actually told people, don't punch the heavy bag bare knuckle. For bare knuckle. For bare knuckle. I mean, this video is not about Icy Mike. But and have you seen Icy Mike's fists? I mean, my fists aren't great, but I tell you what, Icy Mike's fists don't look like this. And we all know that fists like this don't win fights, because we've all seen people with fists like this lose fights. But if someone like this with fists like freaking Icy Mike's tells you about bare knuckle, just cough and go the other way. You know, and it's all for views and shit. He admitted it years later. I thought genuinely, there's no way a martial artist can be this ignorant and arrogant, because they are so obviously the problem that they're trying to fight against. They're the guy who says, oh no, this doesn't work, that works. Oh no, don't punch like this, punch like this. This is the only way to punch. They were blatantly that. And I was like, there's no way a real person can be that dumb and that obviously ignorant and arrogant. So I figured it was all for views. But then years later, Icy Mike actually did come forward, you know, in some video years, you know, a few years ago, and he said, yeah, look, you know, I had a few wrong views, and, you know, I didn't, you know, and I think he met Jesse Enkamp and a few of the other guys, and, you know, sort of, because he was trolling Jesse Enkamp, but I still think it was just all for views. That's a way of covering it up, you know, joining the negative YouTube mainframe of money and views. But yeah, I just can't believe someone was that ignorant. And I just laughed that video under the table, and I made like a comical video that no one really watched, but I made a comical video where I was in like a Dragon Ball Z jumper, and I was like, because he called all Kung Fu people like nerds and this and that and the next thing. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm a nerd. I was in a Dragon Ball Z like vest, and I was like painting Warhammers or something. And I was like, oh, well, you know, I'm a bit of a nerd, but I tell you what, yeah, you don't know shit about bare knuckle, brother, because your fists are like freaking chicken fists, you know, comparatively, you know, to what's out there, you know. And I don't think I'm that great, but I tell you what, you know, like at least if I, you know, if I show you my fist, at least they look like I've done bare knuckle striking, and I've done it. And you can go on my channel for the last 14 years, at least you can see I've done it. I've not just appeared on YouTube and gone, oh, you know, or, you know, conditioning, you know, oh, it's the best. It makes you win fights. It makes you a legend. You know, at least I've got the history on my channel. You can look at it, you know. And then I see a video from bloody, and we got to use what we've got, but I see a video from Armchair Violence where he's there in his kitchen pulling his girlfriend's hair to prove some point. And I was like, man, this guy, like, Jesus, this kid just needs to, I don't know. Oh, well, what can we do? He is a mini Icy Mike. Then I saw him in a video with Icy Mike. Anyway, it's not right. I didn't want to do this because, I don't like speaking out against people, like I don't like the negativity of it, but the shit that these people are purveying and they believe it. And again, I don't care about what they think. I don't care about what they say. It's the damage they're doing, because you go on their videos and you look at their comments and the damage they're doing to the next coming generation of martial artists. Because that generation, they'll come in, they'll see 5 million of that stupid kid's videos before they see one of mine, and they'll see his videos and go, oh, well, he said I shouldn't do this, and he said I shouldn't do Krav Maga, and he said I shouldn't bloody condition, and then he said, so, and then he's like, well, what should I do? What should I do? Oh, well, is there anything that he's saying I can actually do? Because these kids just want to be spoon-fed these days. They don't make any thoughts for their own mind anymore. I get people coming on my channel and they're like, oh, what's the best way to do this? And then this, and then this, and then this. And I'm like, man, it's just in my video. Just watch the video. There's nothing wrong with it, but, it's Jesus. Like, but some people do it with the best of intentions, so that's fine. I don't really think that way that much, but it's just a letdown. It's just a martial arts letdown. MMA Gaze says, speaking of bare knuckle, one of the lady champs was talking about doing iron palm to toughen up her fist. Can't remember her name. Yeah, Cosmo K says, plus Shin conditioning is 100% real. Keep putting real facts out there, man. Thank you, Cosmo. MMA Gaze, Brett is keeping me busy doing cardio. Yeah, keep that cardio up. Cosmo K, how often do you do cardio? Cosmo K, plus you're right, most people can't think for themselves these days. Yeah. Oh, guys, I don't have, the problem is you can't put it in I would have to spend like 5 hours, I'd have to spend like 4 or 5 hours making this. I'd have to make a video the same as his, where I zoom into the camera and I'm like, hey guys, guess what? Conditioning works. Zooming in and out of the camera to get people's attention and whatnot. And I just can't be bothered. I can't be asked. Well, I can be asked. I care. I've been here on YouTube for 14 years just trying to show these conditionings, and I've been saying the same message all the time. It's like, guys, if you can do these things and you want to do them, they will benefit your combat sports. But there is just and of course they will benefit your real life self-defense, which is the main thing we care about. But then there's just this horde of people who just will not have it. I don't care. It's fine if they don't have it. But then there's these influencers, and I'll have to call MMA. I'll have to call ArmchairViolence one of them. Who they've got their opinion and they blast it out there ignorantly and arrogantly. And they've got such little experience. I mean, they've got what experience they've got. And I'm not saying I've got great experience, but in the field of conditioning, that guy has no experience. No, he shouldn't even be talking. I mean, everyone can have an opinion. He shouldn't even be talking about conditioning, training, because he evidently doesn't do any. Maybe he does some boxing with boxing gloves and this and that and the next thing. But to say that Shin conditioning is bro science and it's all bro science, and it's not, it's actually accepted science. And if you've just tuned in, something I said at the beginning of the video is this lad's used bro science. What's bro science? Bro science is half pseudoscience made up by someone who doesn't really understand, where they've got it together and they're giving you a framework of what it might be. That's bro science. So he's literally got bro science to try and say that Wolf's Law and bone remodeling and Shin training is bro science. His whole video is literally a video of bro science. And I've noticed that with a lot of his videos. He tries to hit people with all these facts and stuff that he's obviously sat there and learnt on YouTube, because he's not old enough to have actually learnt it himself, and he presents it as his own knowledge or stuff he's found out somewhere, I don't know, but he presents it as a subject matter expert. Notice it in every video he does, and he'll sit there and he'll give you all these facts and all these things, and he'll break down everything, and it's all real clever. And it's like, bro, that's really nice, but where's your experience? Where's your experience? And when you approach him, and you got to start somewhere, but when you approach him, like I did with the palm videos, and I said, look, bro, like, to be fair, look, and I'm not trying to big it up. I'm not trying to big it up again, but your opinion gets weight based on your experience. So I said, mate, look, I'm 14 years law enforcement. I have, and 7 of those years were in a country with no guns, no nothing, in the UK. And we were single crewed, so we were on our own. So, and then you don't even have to take away the next 7 years that I did with firearms and tasers and this and that and the next thing. And we were double crewed. It didn't mean you didn't fight people on your own. And I said, listen, mate, like, this stuff, first off, you're doing these palms, and I don't even recognize anything. It's like you've gone online and watched a taekwondo video about what a palm looks like. And then he's saying like palm strikes and this and that don't work, and that's all. And that's the same. That's another video of his, but it's in the realm of the conditioning and the bone training. And he's like, these palms don't work and blah blah. And I'm like, mate, there's military packages that include these palm strikes, and they're effective. I've seen them take down people. I've seen them take down people with excited delirium. I've done them on people. They're effective. What are you talking about? And will this guy concede? Nah. And when you've got that level of arrogance, ignorance and arrogance from someone, like that, that's what makes me so angry. They are the problem, and I've said it like 10 times now. They are the problem in martial arts, that they tell you they're trying to fight. Because they're like the devil in the freaking, the devil. What do they say? If the devil comes, he's going to be dressed up like, he's not going to have big red horns. He's going to be in a suit. He's going to look all nice. That's them. Because they're trying to tell you about what's right and what's wrong in martial arts. And they're feeding people like misinformation. They're not listening to people with more experience on them. They just make an opinion. That's the problem with YouTube. You make an opinion. That's the problem with the internet. You make an opinion, you're loud enough, you're ignorant, you're arrogant enough, everyone listens. It's entertainment. And it's killing martial arts. They're trying, and it's poisoning the younger generations. And as you can see, it's making me angry. Armchair Violence is like pretty much the first channel that I've really gotten this angry and spoken out against YouTube. And there's greater offenders than him. But this video has just driven me nuts. I saw it today. I try and avoid his videos because you turn it on. I'm giving him so many chances as well. I've tried to watch a couple of his videos. I'm turning on. Oh yeah, what's he got to say? And it's just this face, and he's just at you like this, boom, 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 blah, 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 blah. And as I said to him before, like years ago, or a year or two ago, when we did the palm thing, when I spoke to him about that, and he told me that that special forces guys, they aren't that tough. I've fought some of them, and they're not that tough. Military guys, they're not that tough. And I was like, I actually thought it then. I thought, this kid must have like sparred these guys a bit in the dojo, or they were new to jiu-jitsu and he's come and rolled with them. And then he's like, oh yeah, I can beat them up. And I'm like, this is literally where this kid lives in his mind. He lives there. What a dangerous place to live, because and I was like, bro, these people, like not so much law enforcement, but military and special forces and stuff, these guys operate on a different level. Like, that's even insulting to like the veterans and the military personnel in your own country. If you're some dweeb in a BJJ dojo, and I love BJJ by the way, who rolls with some of them, and then you're trying to say like a couple of rolls and you're tougher than them, when everyone goes like that much intensity, oh Jesus, or even if you've had a bit of a spar and then with pads, that might not be their technical ability. But I tell you what, out there on the battlefield or whatever, they'll freaking stick a bayonet through your head faster than you can move. And just Jesus, I could not believe I was hearing this from a person. But that shows you how naive and young and whatever. There's nothing wrong with being young, but that shows you how naive and immature the thought process appeared to be when someone's making comments like that. When someone with more experience is approaching them and saying, hey, bro, look, you know, I think you're out of your track here. Anyway. Yeah, anyway, speaking of out of your track, I diverged off point there. But yeah, I don't know. Tell me what you guys think, like, because I feel like I'm just I feel like I'm just lost in a pool here, because I mean the YouTube algorithm's gotten really bad with actually promoting any videos that I want to see. Like my feed on YouTube now is just crap. Like I have to go to that little notifications thing to actually look for the videos that I would probably want to watch. And yeah, a year ago, I would have been interested to see this video where ArmchairViolence is saying that Shin conditioning is bro science. Like I would have been this pissed off about that a year ago. But yeah, you guys, I don't know. Tell me what you got. Am I out of order? I could be out of order. I can be wrong. I might be wrong. Maybe I've dedicated this sort of 15, 19 years of my life to this conditioning training, and I've wasted my time. Which that's fine. However, the pudding that I've eaten hasn't suggested that to me, because like I said, I can only base it on my experience, and I'm not a cage combat fighter. I've more recently done some MMA training and done some of this in BJJ. I'm not a cage combat fighter. I would have liked to have a go. But out there in the world, doing my policing and being in contact with dangerous people who wanted to harm me, and getting in fights and getting in wrestles, and at least at the bare minimum have to go through what you would call pressure testing, which they always go on about. Even if you boil down my experience of 14 years in the police, if you boiled it down to the very bare minimum, which you could equate it to pressure testing that they all go on about. You should pressure test your martial arts. Even then, that's got to be worth something. Like when the things have worked. That's what I was trying to say. The stuff I've done or been training has worked. It hasn't been complicated. It hasn't cost me thousands and thousands of dollars. I haven't had to go to jiu-jitsu club and get belts and this and that. I do like jiu-jitsu, don't get me wrong. I'm a big fan of BJJ. And I did go to traditional jiu-jitsu for years and years, and obviously in kung fu and stuff. But that's what I mean. It's free training. All you got to do is just do it. You know your skills. You know how to punch. You know how to kick. You know how to whatever. It's pretty much free training. You can go and find out about it online. You can watch it free on the video. I don't know. Like, yeah. I just don't understand why people would spread this false information. Like literally, you've got some kid, ArmchairViolence, and he's daring to put up Stephen Wonderboy Thompson and say, "Oh, my shin's probably just as strong as Stephen Wonderboy Thompson's." Like, Jesus. Like, and what I don't understand is like the internet is, like, in my experience of YouTube and the internet, is so quick to flame anyone who makes preposterous claims. And yet these idiots make these ridiculous claims, and they have anonymity. I don't know. MMA Gay says, funny story about young kids who think they know everything. MMA Gays, I was going Hapkido for a while, and one Taekwondo dude was like, I could kill you. I'm like, okay, whatever. Anyway, he tried to get serious with me until I slammed him down on the mat and said, stop. Yeah, bro. Like, I honestly think, and the thing is, look, there's nothing wrong with not having the experience. We can't all get the experience in our lives. For some people, the odd street fight and a street confrontation, something that happened to them in school and this and that and the next thing, is probably the most, and other than like combat sport, which is awesome, is like that's the most confrontation that they're going to get. But unfortunately for them, whether they like it or not, there are people in this world who've been soldiers, they've gone to war. Now, fighting with weapons and shooting and this and that, I include that in martial arts because that's what martial arts is, warfare. If you're a person who studies, like I love traditional martial arts, and have studied like traditional jiu-jitsu, with all the weapons, you can't not include warfare in martial arts because that's what actually the martial arts mean. Martial arts are warfare arts. Blah, blah, blah. You can go back to whatever tradition you want, but they are. And that's why they usually involve weapons. And that's why I also, and this is off tangent, but I also get angry and irritated with the current narrative of people who poo-poo weapons and weapon training. And they're like, oh, why would you need to train with a sword? Why would you need to train with a stick? They're right. You don't need to train with a sword or stick. But those are where the fundamental martial arts movements come from. Like for me, one of my favorite weapons is a 6-foot staff. Do I ever use a 6-foot staff? No. The closest thing I've ever had is a baton, like a police truncheon. But a lot of the fundamental movements and the way to move your body and a martial understanding comes from weapon training. So has the weapon training benefited me? Yes. Has the weapon training benefited me in how I handle firearms? Yes. Has firearms training affected how I do my hand-to-hand combat? Yes. Has firearms training affected the way I defend myself? Yes, because I know to look for firearm, concealed weapon, other kind of accoutrement. I'm not saying me as in, oh, I'm amazing. I'm not, and that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying we all, or anyone who's in that field, they search for all those things, or at least they should. And that becomes their experience. And then you got people who just, and again, there's nothing wrong with it. Because I used to be that person before I got more experience. But, then you get people who just train in the dojo a couple of times a week and maybe do a bit of combat sport and some sparring. And they think about, oh, what would a real situation be like, da da da. And then, they experience and they kind of grow that way. And that's cool. But then you get people who just do those things and they've got this weird closed off mind where it's like a jealous mind. It's like it's a bad martial arts mind where they just think, oh no, I don't do that, so it must be fake and I must think about how. And the problem is those people have thrived online because when they turn up at the dojo they get the ass beat. That's the truth, and we all know it. If Armchair Violence brought his freaking big-headed shit into my freaking dojo, he would get his ass beat. Because I've had real people come into my dojo with their Street Fighter bullshit. Not that he said that, but I've had people come into my dojo with, oh, careful, he's a Street Fighter and blah, blah, blah. And like taking the piss out of our lesson and stuff. And then I've stopped the lesson and gone, all right, mate, put your gloves on. Put some gloves on, me and you, come. And should I have done it? Maybe I shouldn't have done it. But I've done that. And all with adult people, consenting people, and no one's got like smashed to hell. Maybe a broken rib here and there. Yeah. And that's the sort of cool shit that used to happen in real dojos. That's what used to happen. It doesn't happen on YouTube. You get these people who spend 5 years trying to hook up an internet fight that never happens. Yeah. Oh, anyway. Cosmo says, thanks for popping by anyway, guys. Cosmo says, I'll definitely have to buy your Iron Fist course once. I had my own thing sorted first, plus I still condition my elbows and arm bones against hard surfaces. Yeah. Condition those elbows. MMA Gaze says, yes, it's a good course. Thank you, MMA Gaze. I'm glad you like it. It's going to be Cosmo says it's going to be very beneficial for me since I plan to get it next year. Want my fists beyond the average person, although my fists are quite sharp thanks to my experience from Kyokushin. Yeah, man, Kyokushin. Yeah, awesome. And then again, Cosmo, from Kyokushin, the strongest karate, Masutatsu Oyama. That guy was world renowned for his conditioning. That doesn't work apparently. It doesn't dent in your bones. It's bro science. You got some pipsqueak 20-something-year-old American. Sorry, I like Americans, but whatever he is, American or Canadian or whoever he is, it doesn't matter what country he's from. I'm just being an asshole here. But you've got some pipsqueak, bloody piddly, whatever he is, trying to, and because it's coming from America, America gets blamed for it. But he's trying to American smash hundreds of years of tradition in the martial arts, and yet he does martial arts. His BJJ that he so loves originates from Japanese jiu-jitsu syllabus, a full entire Japanese jiu-jitsu syllabus that includes not only newaza, which is ground fighting, but all the up above stuff, throws, locks, all the fake martial arts that these guys. If these guys went back to the freaking original Japanese instructors who taught these things, they'd be horrified. They'd be like, these closed-minded idiots with disrespect and this, and I'm not even going to teach them. This is a problem. I don't know where this attitude comes from. It's such a bad attitude. Oh, well, anyway, thanks for mentioning the Iron Body course. That's something I also thought about. I thought about it and I was like, well, hold on a minute. If I start to talk out against this lad, he's going to just say, oh, well, of course this guy's going to come forward and say that conditioning works and this, that, and the next thing, because, he's got this course online that he's trying to sell. Well, all I would say in that regard, but I'm saying it 56 minutes in, so it doesn't matter, is all I'd say in that regard is the evidence on my channel for the last 14 odd years would suggest that that's not my motive. This Iron Body martial arts course that I made was actually, people asked me for so long to put something together. That was because my channel is so unconcise and not very well edited and this and that, and because I've got shit equipment, and not a lot of time because I work out in the real world like we all else do. But yeah, people asked me, can you put something together? And I really wanted to for myself because it's an achievement to put something together. That's like a syllabus or like a real, something that people can use. And yeah, as I said, everything on that in there is on my channel, but you're going to have to dig for it, and it's not concise, and it's not in lesson plans, and it's all over the place, just like I am. But yeah, the course was made in the latter years of my channel, the last couple of years, and it's there. It costs a bit of money. I'm proud of it. And it took me a lot of time. It took me 40 hours of work just to assemble. So, I put a value on it and I thought, what do I earn at work for 40 hours? What have I ever got from YouTube, like, over the last 12 years? Like, nothing, So other than, good folk who, say hello, give some comments and this and that, and that's all I wanted. But yeah, if I'm going to put that effort into it, I'm going to, make it a respectable price, so that people also, there's like my dad used to be in business. He told me years ago, there's like a supply chain thing where if you have a product and it's a good product and you like price it down, just because it's priced down, sometimes people just don't buy it. You sell it for $20. If everyone who wanted my course said that they'll buy it for $20, I'd put it for $20. But I know that if I put it for $20, then like they wouldn't buy it. It's a weird psychological thing. I've given that course away to like quite a few people for free, like in my own circles, and people who are like struggling or whatever and message me. And then I've looked on the freaking course document inside the course, and they've never even started the course. So I'm like, well, I bet you if they paid for it, they would have started it. Sometimes we don't appreciate what we get for free. But anyway, that's aside on that point. So yeah, guys, look, I think other than probably giving any evidence as to why bone conditioning works or whatever, I think I've got my rant off my chest about how disappointed I am in ArmchairViolence and the continuous stream of crap that he puts out. Sorry to say, I saw even the video. I saw a video title from him the other day, like Krav Maga doesn't work, and it's like, mate, bro, whatever you think about Krav Maga, whatever you think about self-defense arts. Like it's a simple system, or maybe more complicated now, used by Israelis military as an effective method of like warfare defense. Maybe there's lots of people who branched away from that and made other things, and they've got nothing to do with that. But at least at the core of the system, it's a military system. They work. They work because they're tried and tested and actually used in battle. And that's what martial arts is. MMA Gay says, "Oh, that bundle of chopsticks secret is amazing. I also hate you so much. I thought my hands were decent strength, but no, that was a wake-up call." Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, there we go, bro. I'm glad. I'm really glad you've enjoyed the training. Yeah. The bundle of chopsticks. Yeah, I know. It's such a simple little tool. You can take it wherever you want. But it's a gem. It's in the 72 Secret Marts of the Shaolin. It's an absolute gem, and it's in there for a reason, because something about it. It's the way it trains the way it trains the pressure. I don't know. It's something about it. I need to make a new gadget actually, because as you know, mine is the bamboo bundle, the big long bamboo bundle. But I kind of need to make like a proper real one. Like I should make the real gadget. I've got like my version of it, but I need to make the actual gadget itself. With the square chopsticks. You know, I've got one with round cocktail sticks, but they're not quite the same. And then obviously you can keep that gadget for a long time, and then you can replace the chopsticks you replace them with the metal ones. That's what you do. Also, good alternative to twin locks while sitting around. Yeah, of course, yeah, because you can use that same bundle to hit the bones. Yeah, which doesn't work apparently in bro science. I just think on the bro science front, everyone's these days, before no one knew anything about it, but everyone these days now in the West, like in the West, no one used to talk about it. But then everyone a couple of years ago, or 5 or 6 or 10 years ago, started banding around this Wolf's Law thing. I guess it was in the early days of Wikipedia, because people looked it up and they saw Wolf's Law. Of course, people who were already into it knew about Wolf's Law. I've known about Wolf's Law since I was like 15, but then you'd see it coming out where people would say Wolf's Law, and now on videos people say Wolf's Law, and they're like, oh, that's how it works. It's not necessarily how it works. It's sort of, that's one part of how it works, maybe, if the theory is correct, of the current theory of bone remodeling. But yeah, that doesn't matter. People ban that word around. It doesn't mean anything, It's just, okay, Wolf's Law, big deal. So, I can see why some people might attack that and be like, oh, well, everyone's saying Wolf's Law, but, what are they actually doing, sort of thing. But yeah, I don't know. Oh, so yeah, let me know what you guys think. I personally think, like you say, not, these people, they need to be like called out. The problem is you call them out and they've got so much more time and energy and resources to attack you back. That's another reason why I've just, sometimes I call these lot out, but sometimes I just can't be bothered. They just make these videos. But then a lot of the time I'll go in and see the comments of the people they're misleading, and I'll be like, oh, it just drives me nuts. And then, like I said, I've pre-recorded a half an hour stint of me trying to make a concise argument and say, listen, armchair violence, but I had like I said, I have no facts. Like, I don't have a bunch of bro science, which is what he's fed everyone as well. I don't have a load of bro science to tell you like how conditioning works or whatever. But like I said, I've got 19 odd years of my life doing it, where I know, like, if you don't do it for a while, you're not as powerful, you're not as resistant to damage. Then you start doing it again, and you're like, oh shit, yeah, bang, you can hit harder, you can hit without the injury, you get hit and you don't get injured as much, you don't fracture a bone when something's on you, fall over, you don't, like all these stupid little accidents that happen to adults and people, you're all right. and the shins, as it happens, I'm talking shins still, but the shins are actually very sensitive, very, so if you do combat sports, even if it is just to deaden the nerves a bit, it's probably a good idea to train your shins, like, another thing on his video where he shows all the 3 or 4 guys who broke their shins, they all broke their shins at the bottom of the shin, and, that's, these MMA guys are very well trained. They're very, well conditioned. They do a lot of training, a lot of sport, a lot of fighting, but they're not all also experts of the field that they're in. They're not all Muay Thai experts. They haven't been a lot of them are quite new to the various disciplines of striking. They get built up, and you can't build up your conditioning in a little period of time. It takes a long time. So, what I'm saying is, do you see Burkow breaking his shin on anyone? No. How many kicks does he kick people with? How hard does he kick people with? Yeah. So everyone also thinks that these MMA guys are the best in their field. But just because they do MMA and they're on UFC doesn't actually mean they're the best striker or they're the best condition. They lots of them are. But I see a lot of guys in MMA myself who, I go, yeah, he's not that great at doing kicks or shin kicks or whatever, or he's doing like karate style kicks. Because look, I'm not an MMA fighter, but because I've tried to be for the last 19 years an expert on conditioning. When I even watch MMA of these top level UFC guys, a lot of the times I see, because you can't see their fists that much, but I see their body parts and their legs and stuff when they're doing kicks, and a lot of the time I'm like, oh, that was a good kick, but that guy's foot doesn't look that well conditioned. That guy's shin doesn't look that well conditioned. From because if it's your field, you've got an eye for it. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like, I'm not trying to diss on the MMA guys because they're so much more better than I am, but because it's my field of expertise, they're not the best. And I've trained in an MMA dojo, and the guys are good at what they do, but that doesn't mean, like, I could have taught them, and that's what I wanted to do, but I wasn't there for long enough. I wanted to become my ultimate goal, and my brother was pushing for it, and I wanted to kind of try and go that way with the Bare Knuckle FC or with anyone. My ultimate goal would be to become a conditioning, like, advisor. That would be awesome. But everyone keeps poo-pooing the knowledge, and only a few of the MMA people are slowly discovering it. Like, they're actually discovering it like traditional martial artists discovered it. As the years go on, and as they need more and more of an edge, and you can't just throw flowery kicks, and the amount of kicks you see in MMA that are actually bad, but the heel just clips them, and because it's just such a dense part of the body, knocks them out. But if you had that same MMA fighter throwing like a proper, like, say if you took a proper like karateka kick and you put it into that fighter, a bit like Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, you get what's the name of the Japanese guy who was a champion for a while? Because he was a champion because and everyone was saying how he's traditional, Lyoto Machida. Yeah, so Lyoto Machida is also a good example of, when someone has that traditional background, they're throwing like kicks that are a lot better than just your standard or different. Look, I'm stepping on a minefield here, but in one way, for their particular style, they're throwing the best kick that they could throw. That's a good way of putting it. So that's what I'm trying to say. For their particular style, or whatever style of kick they were throwing, I've seen a lot of kicks, a lot of hits that, the conditioning is not that great. Let's see. Cosmo K says, I have a lot of respect for Kyokushin karate since the creator, as you mentioned, he's inspiring and was very superhuman. Yeah, Masatsu Oyama is a personal hero of mine. He always has been since I was a kid. He was known for his feats of strength, his feats of conditioning. He famously went up into the hills and trained, like he disappeared into the wilderness and trained. But when you actually find out about the story, it wasn't quite, as fantastical as it sounded. It turned out he went to live on a farm, and so it wasn't like he escaped into the hills. But when you originally hear the story, they say he like escaped into the hills and trained for like years, his conditioning. And the funny thing is, when years later, when I read the autobiography of what he did, and I read his conditioning that he did, I'd already done that conditioning. So years later, when I read it, I was like, oh yeah, I remember doing that. But yeah. Did I ever reach the feats of Masatatsu Oyama? No, probably not. Although I think he would be impressed by me bending the piece of iron rebar by hitting it loads of times. That was a feat that probably even Masatatsu Oyama himself would find difficult, I would say. Striking a piece of rebar and just keep striking it till it's bent. Or at least he would give me a nod and go, very good. I don't know, maybe not. Um, Cosmo says, plus you have the knowledge that most of these other fighters don't have. Plus, having conditioned fists plus shins would make you above pro fighters in a way, not gonna lie. Yeah, oh well. I mean, I wish I was like super conditioned like that, but just take a guy like Burkow, his shins, you don't like again, you never see them break. That because that's the thing. You need if you're gonna throw kicks like that. First off, if I threw those kicks, well, they probably didn't intend to, but as far as my understanding was, you never hit with the bottom part of your shin. I conditioned the bottom part of my shin, but I would never throw a leg kick at someone with that bottom part. That doesn't mean that wouldn't happen. And it happens in MMA, and you don't know. But these like when I first was watching like MMA back in the day, they didn't do that as much. But then, they was doing thigh kicks. But when they started doing these lower leg kicks and stuff like that and breaking the lower bit of their shin, I was always scratching my head because I'm like, these guys are like top of their game, but why are they throwing lower shin kicks at people's legs? And unfortunately that's from I don't know what that's from, but it's not something I would do. And I don't know as much as they do. I don't have super trainers like they do, but it's a reach advantage, but it's not advisable because you break your shin. So I condition that part of my shin, but if I hit with the shin, I hit with the upper part, but just below the knee. That's usually where you hit with the shin. I'd never heard of hitting with, like even in like karate, you hit with the foot and the different parts of the foot. And then if you amalgamize your style and a bit of kung fu or whatever, you hit with the top part of the shin bone. But I'd never heard of hitting with the bottom part of the shin bone. And that's the bit that they show on the video, that thingy he shows on his video, Armchair Violence, breaking. And he says, oh, shin conditioning doesn't work. Well, I'll tell you what, if those guys have got that from hitting the bag, the boxing bag, because if they'd hit anything harder than a boxing bag with the bottom of their shin, they wouldn't be doing that because I've done it. I've hit trees and stuff with that bottom bit of my shin and, caught a bit of a tree and stuff. And I've been like, oh, I conditioned that bottom bit of my shin. And that's always like the weakest part. But then you've got other people online, the Chinese guys, like breaking like big stakes of wood with that bottom bit of their shin. And that is just another level of training, like literally. And there's no well, unless there is fakery, because you do hear sometimes of people getting metal. It has been known for Thai fighters to get like metal implants or something. Whether it's ever actually been proven, I don't know. Some of you guys might know, but dude, like, how can a human being say that shin conditioning doesn't exist or bone densening or whatever when you can see the videos online now of some of these guys? And I don't, a lot of them aren't fake, like I don't know what might be augmented in these humans, but they don't understand the Chinese mindset, the poorness, the amount of training you have to do, the amount of time to train. You can just hit your shin like that all day. They hit them hard, they deaden those nerves, they densen those bones with hard training. And oh man, I would love to have like shins like that, or that level of conditioning, but the amount of hours, the time you have to put into it, So you can't take that time away from those people and call that training fake just to make yourself sleep a bit better at night. Because I could do that, couldn't I? You know, because I've dedicated like 19 years or whatever to these conditioning trainings, and look at me. You know, I'm not freaking Superman. You don't see me kicking through, like, I could probably kick through a baseball bat and, you know, the usual stuff. And, you know, I can do my chopping bricks and this and that or what, never. But what do you think I think when I see those videos of these guys? And a lot of them are younger than me, and they're like smashing through like big pieces of pine and this and that. And I've hit things like that, and I know how hard they are, and I know what it feels like. So the amount of training, the effort, the willpower, you know, I could just, you know, if I was of a bad character, I could try and build myself up by telling myself a lie and trying to sell everyone else a lie and being like, oh, you know, those things are fake, and oh, I can't sleep at night because I'm insecure unless those things are fake because I've put so many years into training, I can't deal with it, you know. Anyway. MMA Gay says another funny story about shin conditioning. When I was in the Marines, we would punish other people by kicking their shins. I bet if you kicked this dude's shins, he would probably drop and cry. Oh yeah. Well, well, apparently his shins are, you know, without even me kicking Armchair Violence's shins, apparently he says his shins are as strong as Stephen Wonderboy Thompson's, so who's like an MMA fighter who actually trains his shins. So yeah, you know, so but my shins would just explode and I would die. How many reps for conditioning shins would you recommend? Since at the moment I only have two metal poles, one thin one and another thick one. Cosmo says. Oh, Cosmo, the shins are a tough one, eh? Probably the same as what you would do. You know, just start with. It's really up to your body. Start with like, I don't know, start with a number. Pick like 50 to 100. 100 is always good. 50 to 100. Do 100 on each side. One thing with the shins is get like a mat. You know, not just something hard like you know, you can do the rolling on the shins. That the rolling's really good. Like I've got a video where I've got like a big fence post. It's like this big. And another thing that was evil about that fence post is it was really dry and it had like splits. So it wasn't, but if you can get like a big roller, but like not just a little roller, like a big heavy piece of round wood, like a post that you buy in the store. Yeah. Just sit there, put that like what I did in the video is I put that on the top of my shins at the top, because actually pressure on the bones is another way that we train them to condition them. That's another thing old what's his face left out. He didn't know about pressure. He talked about how pressure is the only way to train things. He didn't realize that in kung fu or in whatever conditioning circles, there's a whole separate methods of pressure training where you only put pressure on things. So from his point of view, those methods already defeat his view because he said pressure works. So pressure works. So yeah, anyway, you get the big log and you put it. I've got a video on it. It's called like crazy shin conditioning or whatever. But you put the big log on your leg, on the top of your leg, and you just leave it there. And you might need to sort of hold it a bit because it's so painful. And then you tilt it a few degrees so it rolls a bit, and then you just have it there for a bit, and then you roll it a bit more, and gradually you work all the way down your shin, and to the very bottom. And then when you get to the bottom, you just leave it there as well. You know, basically by the base of your feet. You try and relax the muscles of your leg, which is very hard to do because the muscles want to come up and cover your shin. It depends on your structure as well, because you might have a leg where your shin's like covered, or you might have a leg where your shin's like my leg, however my stupid bow legs are, the edge of my shin's pointed forward, so my shins are really sharp, which isn't great for me because I'm working with a sharp edge. You know, like maybe most people's shins are like that. I don't know, but you know, people have always said to me like, "Oh, your shins are so sharp." You know, so I have to work on the edge of that shin bone because I think it's twisted in a bit or out or however. But obviously, everyone has a different anatomy. So I think some people can have a bit more of a shin which is a bit more flat, you know. But maybe everyone's shins are sharp at the edge. I don't know. But I've had the comment thrown at me before, and my legs are a bit sort of bowed and weird. Just from that's the way I am born. So yeah, and then, you know, from doing martial arts, I've seen obviously people have different anatomies. But anyway, so you might be, if your shins are a bit more flatter, you'll be happier doing that. But yeah, just roll that thing up and down the leg. Really, like, don't use the muscles, just relax it. It's going to hurt like hell, and leave it, like, have it there, and you'll be like, oh, and then you can take some of the weight of it, then roll it a little, keep it there, and it'll take a while. But the good thing is, once you get used to that, watch the video. But once you get used to that, then you just roll the thing down your leg. You can put your hands on the top of it, but that's how you start. Because if you just start with rolling, you literally, your skeleton will jump out of your skin. You roll a big thing like that down your leg, and you'll just go, and you'll just be like a skin sack on the floor. If you want to do shin conditioning, but remember, shin conditioning doesn't work. So don't even bother doing it, apparently. But yeah, you can start with that, to get the edges hard. And then obviously to actually denten the shin, you can do your kicking of the boxing, the heavy bags and stuff like that. That's good. And you get like a roll of like bamboo mat or something like that, or a roll of garden bamboo, and then you like wrap it in some foam or something, and then you can use that to hit the different surfaces of the whole shin. So the front, the side, the outside, which is more muscle, and the back even of the calf and stuff. And that way you'll have, if you can be bothered doing it. You can also use like a block of wood or something, but yeah, that way, if you can be bothered doing it, you'll have like your whole leg will be like a bit more resistant to like strikes and stuff like that. If you can be bothered doing it, you know, I'm not the master of shin conditioning. Like, you know, I wish my shins were more stronger than they are, actually. But yeah, I was actually training them today, so I don't know. I've got like, oh, you probably can't see it, but I've got friggin' lines down my shins. Yeah, anyway, because I was hitting them with the mat. I was also hitting them on the tree because I tied the mat to the tree, my bamboo mat. But yeah, anyway. So there, sorry, hopefully that did that for you. MMA Gay says, what have we got here? Oh. MMA Gay says, yeah, you see grown tough men grimace. So there's definitely something to most people overlook. Yeah, definitely. With the shins so painful. I used to kick a tie bag for fun, then just tap my shins with my mom's rolling pin. She was mad when she found out. Yeah, great method. Like, you know, the old rolling pin method. Well, great method. If that's the method you guys want to do it. Like, I've done that too with the rolling pin, just hitting. One thing I find with the whole pin hitting method, or the hard piece of wood, is you tend to sometimes gravitate to the edge of the shin, like the side. You can do that because obviously it's not as sharp. But you want to also you want to get that sharp edge really. But it's up to you. Like, we all know it's easy stuff. Even the freaking glass bottle works, tapping it with the glass bottle. But yeah, anyway, you know, not so much a video on leg conditioning. But yeah, so anyway, MMA Gaze, thanks, bro. Cosmo K, thanks for putting some comments in. Hopefully your cardio goes well. Listening to my whinging whilst doing cardio. I've been trying to get back into the burpees. Like, what are they, like the 6-stage burpees or whatever? Or so I'll do like 6 count, is it? I'll do like 6 count burpee, and then I'll get up. And then I'll stand up with a jump. No, yeah, I'll do 6 count burpee, stand up with a jump, or I'll do like 6 count burpee, squat, and then like squat again and jump. You know, because you do a burpee with a jump, but I'll try and put a squat in there, and then I'll do like a 6 count burpee, with a squat, and then a squat and a jump, and then like a lunge and a lunge. You know, and I've been trying to build up on those because they're just evil. Burpees in general are evil, but they're just a great exercise. So yeah, the old burpees, yeah, good exercise. But don't do it, because exercise doesn't work, burpees doesn't work, nothing works, shin conditioning doesn't work. It just don't work. Just I don't know. Just be some person on YouTube who fucking does whatever. I don't know. Anyway, guys, I've probably stayed past my bedtime now. I don't really have a bedtime, but my missus is, well, she's overdue. She's meant to be giving birth. She's meant to be giving birth. What are we? Wednesday today? I don't even know. I think it was today, the 4th of November. She was meant to be giving birth. I think that's today, or was it yesterday? So she's overdue for giving birth to this baby, and I'm just waiting for him to come any moment now. So now that I've stayed up a bit late, like the first one, he's probably going to come like just as I start to try and go to bed. That's the last kid came. I stayed up doing a YouTube video or something, pretty much doing a live stream of this. And then like at 12 or just after 12, I went to go to bed or something. And my missus was like, "Oh, why are you awake so long? You know, what are you doing? Blah, blah, blah." And then she was like, "Oh, my waters have broken." And then it was like hours and hours at the hospital. Oh, it's crazy. But it was good. Um, so yeah, so to all you guys that have kids, you'll know what I'm talking about. Bless you all and your children. They are hard work, but amazing things. But anyway, on that note, I'm gonna go. Thanks for tuning in and listening to my ramblings. No one's gonna watch this video. I'm sure Armchair Violence won't watch this video, or it's gone on for so long, but I'll try and make a concise version of my original video, like 10 minutes or something with my initial point, and I'll chuck that out there maybe for people who've got less of a mind to digest this whole video. But the main purpose of making this video wasn't really to slam on Armchair Violence, although he got slammed completely. It was to just speak out against like misinformation, and which is to the detriment of the up and coming community of like martial artists on YouTube, which is a new thing in martial arts. And, like it wasn't considered as a real thing until COVID, and then it became more of a real thing where people were like, well, now we'll accept online martial arts. But now that online martial arts is a little bit accepted, I don't want it to go in a bad direction, which is already, or it's already in that direction anyway. But yeah, I would prefer that there's some people who speak up against like this, whatever this weird culture is of people telling you what you should and shouldn't do and how you can do it and what you can watch and what's real and what's fake, and being a bit biased about their opinions and not understanding the culture or not willing to have an open mind to the culture, being a bit yeah, it's a little bit like I don't talk religion on my channel, but it's a little bit like, and the flames are coming out now. It's a little bit like religion. Like I was raised a religious person, and I would say I'm not a good practicing religion person, but I'm a little bit religious. And it's a bit like anti-religious sentiments, like in the Western world, because like, and all I say is, I've got a respect for the past, and all I say, I'm not trying to spread religion here or anything. Um, all I say, like sometimes I wonder with people because I'm like, yeah, you can be anti-religious and whatnot, that's fine, but you have to acknowledge that the religion that you hate and everything that you hate about it is still the foundation of your Western society. That's what your culture and values and stuff are based on. But that doesn't change. But that's just the truth. And the amount of people I've spoken to and whatnot, they say all the anti-religious stuff, and I'm like, fine. But regardless of whether you love it or hate it, it is the foundation of your society. And they're like, oh no, no, it's not. No, no, it isn't. And I'm like, mate, it literally is. Everything about the Western culture that you live in, everything, nearly everything, the law, the legal law, which is now separated but used to be religious law, the customs, mannerisms, language, it all comes from the religion. It all comes from religion. So to some extent, you have to respect the what do you call it? You have to, well, you don't have to, but to some extent, you have to acknowledge um, the past, basically. The foundations of your culture. So And why do I say that? Because that's what I mean. The cultures are different, and there's a lot of misunderstanding in cultures. People not, so these martial artists think they're doing martial arts a favor by poo-pooing all the traditional martial arts, but they're really kind of I don't understand. They're kind of disrespecting what it is they stand for. Like, how can you do martial arts and then poo-poo the backbone of what you are doing? Just doesn't make any sense to me. You can be critical of it, you can whatever, but you have to acknowledge that it is the foundation of whatever it is you're doing. Like if you do BJJ, you have to acknowledge that jiu-jitsu is the foundation of your system. Traditional jiu-jitsu. And if you do BJJ, I love BJJ, you also will benefit from doing traditional jiu-jitsu, and you will learn stuff. Because when I went to BJJ and trained BJJ, having done traditional jiu-jitsu, it filled a little puzzle gap for me. And I was doing, like, even though I wasn't that great at the Nawaza, the ground fighting, I was doing little moves on people, and they were like, they were getting got by it, or they were nearly getting got, and they were going like, "What the hell, you?" And then when they found out I was from traditional jiu-jitsu, they'd pull their hand away, and they were like, "Stop trying to do your bloody traditional jiu-jitsu on me," and it became like a little bit of a joke in the dojo, which I thought was cool, So yeah. Anyway, last comment, and then I'll go. Cosmo says, "Thank you, Brett, for your advice, and also I'll check out your video about it later on." Oh, the Shin training. Yeah. Check it out, bro. It's all free. No, not going to cost you a penny. But if you do like the content and whatever, and you're not already, think about supporting the channel and stuff on Patreon. And kind of, I'll post the videos here. It's Patreon's. I haven't released that many videos recently, unfortunately, but there's still a core bunch of guys that support the Patreon, and just it's appreciated. It helps me pay bills, and I've said to the guys, like, literally sometimes it's helped me pay bills and stuff. So yeah, but if you do like the comment, you do enjoy the channel and stuff, consider just joining the Patreon to support. And the funny thing about the Patreon is I kind of set it up, and my hope was that it was like an interactive thing, and people would send, because other than the Iron Body course, there's like lessons and stuff on Patreon, but I haven't had the chance to make a determined syllabus. It usually follows whatever the year's training theme is. But now there's the Iron Body martial arts course, which is basically a syllabus. But my hope was that people would join there, and then train the stuff. And obviously it was interactive. They would send it to me, and because they're on the Patreon, I'd be like, "Okay, do this, let's do this today. We're going to do that." But so far, up until now, even though it's been running for a couple of years, everyone who's joined has and that's fine, has kind of, they've had a little bit of a chat with me, but mainly they've just joined and just used it to support the channel, which is good. But it's a bit of a shame, because they had maybe they didn't feel they needed it, but they had a resource there that they could have used. They could literally send me a message on there and go, "Brett, what do I need to do next? What should I do? How should I train?" And I would have sent them a video. I did a few like live videos with some guys. We did a bit of training. But yeah, it was a bit underutilized. But I blame Patreon for that, because in all these years, they've not updated their system. I believe there's other systems of like joining, like you can even do memberships on YouTube now. But yeah, it was a shame, because Patreon's a good one. There's a group. So basically, the group of guys on there, and girls, or whoever they are, they just support the channel, and I'm appreciative of it. But yeah, if they are listening or whatever, don't forget that you can contact me on it, and do stuff, go through videos, do private stuff. That's another thing with Patreon. They never quite sorted out the private video thing, which is a pain. So you can't, they need to get off their ass and spend some money on that platform. I think there are other platforms now, but it becomes a hassle of trying to break that one down and make that one out. I was thinking of opening up the joining thing on the YouTube, and then at least if you do a live stream, you can do it for the members, but yeah, again, with the times and stuff like that. So anyway, enough of that. But thanks, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for your comments. It was awesome. Cosmo K and MMA Gaze. And I think there was someone else on there. Someone did come along. Sean Simon. So that was cool. Thank you, Sean. But yeah, appreciate it, guys. Thanks a lot for listening to me rant for like an hour and 30 minutes. Hopefully it made your cardio or your exercise a little bit more enjoyable. It's sometimes always fun to hear people rant about stuff and just get stuff off their mind. But yeah, anyway, keep in touch, enjoy your training, and yeah, don't be dismayed by the terrible state of like YouTube martial arts at the moment. You know, it's just such a negative place, honestly. It's not going to change though. One of my instructors used to say, like, just the certain, every kind of martial artist will be attracted to their certain thing. You know, like the good martial artists will be in the good clubs, the bad martial artists will be in the shitty clubs. You know, it's just the way it goes. And, you know, usually the good clubs aren't that full, and the more shitty clubs are like packed to the brim for some reason. I don't know why. Although that's sort of changed a little bit with the MMA clubs these days, because they're really big establishments full of a lot of people and they do good training and stuff like that. So, but certainly back in the day. But anyway, that's me. Talked enough crap. So thanks for tuning in, guys. I'll see you around. Yeah, and have a good one. Oh, yeah.